Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Welcome to the May issue of the Intersection Magazine podcast. Intersection Magazine podcast is really a summary of the monthly issues that we put out of the magazine, and so this is just an audio summary of the month of May. We're going to highlight some of the key issues that we covered for the month, but we'll leave out a few maybe advertising sections which we mentioned last month, and probably bring them up in a few months just so that we don't have it too monotonous. Anyhow, for this issue we covered Africa Reimagined, which was a webinar that was done featuring about 2 days, ranging from VC to agri-tech to CVC, which is corporate venture capital, to a few other topics. And then we have 9 Habits of World-Class Startups by James Currier of NFX. We love NFX articles, and so we're featuring that. We have an event summary, so that's a bit of a new section we're experimenting with, as well as a posthumous interview with my late father. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. We look forward to interacting with you. I'm your host, Nicholas Kianda. So Africa Reimagined is the brainchild of Included VC. Included VC, you can look them up on the internet, put together an event in which they wanted to discuss the landscape on the continent for investment as well as other issues. So look up Included VC for more about what they're up to, including the new cohort that I believe will be taking in new students or new participants in their fellowship for the next few months. As I said, visit their page to get more information about that. For the particular month, I wanted to feature the few episodes that I was able to capture. Unfortunately, I visited the website where the Zoom events had been stored, so I was only able to get about 4 events, so I don't have material for the last day. But this will be a piece or a summary of the conversation with Noni Burbage. Noni is from Enza Capital, but she's been in the space for a while herself. So what she was trying to do was debunking myths about VC in Africa. I just give you bits and pieces. I, of course, added some of the material to enrich the piece, but I'll give you bits and pieces in terms of the major ideas that she tackled. The first, of course, was the idea that VC is not that present in Africa. She debunked that by letting us know that you have about $2 billion USD or $1 billion USD is held privately on the continent. Let me get my numbers right. Yes, about 2 to 1 billion was held. I think that was the figures for 2003, 2004. So there is a VC presence. Of course, what she wanted to do, what I sought to do in my piece, was define some of the issues that are involved, because she talks about the presence of a few unicorns in Africa. A unicorn means a startup valued at $1 billion or more. Then there's what they call camels. These are startups that prioritize financial stability, resourcefulness, Then there's zebras, which are startups that focus on profitability and sustainable growth, and other different definitions. So one of the myths she wanted to debunk was that we have a small presence of VC in the country. The other thing that, or rather on the continent, the other thing that she mentioned was the thing that you will also hear be talked about in China and India as well, where we think that 100 or 1.5 billion population translates to a market. This is not true. The spending habits of the people on the continent are different. And so population numbers don't necessarily equate to market. Third was a strategy for scaling. She says that you don't scale country to country, you scale city to city. This was mind-blowing for me, or should be mind-blowing for those of you who are thinking about expansion on other countries or in other geographies, how to strategize around that expansion. She tackled a few other issues. Of course, I'd love you to read the magazine, so I won't mention all of them. And she also talked about importance of domiciling, where to domicile. She talked about fintechs. And she also talked about big numbers don't always mean big business. So that was Noni, or that is Noni Barbridge. I encourage you to look up Enter Capital as well. There was a conversation with the CEO who really shared some interesting insights in terms of what they've noticed on the continent and where they see most promise. Now, the second piece was the 9 habits of world-class startups. I was only able to mention a few, but one of the things that they made that the article emphasizes is flexibility and curiosity as number one. The importance of thinking in terms of networks, the importance of finding a white-hot center. And for white-hot centers, they talked about eBay for collectibles, Uber for black cars, Facebook, the white center was colleges, Salesforce, the white center was sales, Amazon's white center was books, for Hired's white center was engineers, cell phones, the white center was business people, and Snapchat, the white center was teenagers. So once again, I encourage you to visit NFX website, NFX, I believe nfx.com. They also have an amazing podcast. They also have a YouTube channel. These are some of the tools that I use for myself to put my business in a different level. Now, in terms of entertainment, I recommend, I've been going through the seasons of Fargo. Fargo is amazingly done. The characters, the richness in which they're presented, the challenges they face, the choice of geography. I've had people talk about how sometimes the environment itself acts as a character. The cold climate, the killers, and the chill that they give you with the emotions, and the use of angles, and the choice of lighting, the humor. Fargo is just amazing. I think my preference was season 1, and probably then season 5. You see pretty much the same thread. You always have some kind of a cold-blooded killer or some kind of villain who seems to get away with what he wants. You always have the characters always seem to be to express or to have a lot of machismo, or to be male-centered. The women are despised, but they always end up being the heroes. So those are some interesting characteristics that I find in the work that was done with Fargo. I can't quite remember how I came across the series, but I'm so glad I did. There's a book that was recommended, or that I featured. It's called Principles. So what I did, because I haven't read the book yet, is I just got some notes from someone called Alex Chen on Medium. he suggests, or he summarizes the second part of the book as having to do with five principles. You embrace reality and you deal with it. The 5-step process to do what you have to do to get what you want to get out of life. You need to have goals, identify problems that stand in your way, accurately diagnose the problems to get the root causes, design plans that will get you around those problems, and do what is necessary to push through these problems to get your results. The second principle is to be radically open-minded. The fourth principle is understand people are wired differently. The fifth principle is learn how to make decisions effectively. As usual, we normally have 4 issues from the past which we feature. For those of you who may have missed an article or a piece and want to get a sense of flow, what we've been covering, those usually feature on page 20. I have some amazing leadership lessons from Bees. If you read this, you'll be amazed at how they select a leader and how it can actually happen to anyone. So I think the lesson for me was not to get too stuck in the process or thinking that any of us is special, but just to do as much as possible to be in the right place at the right time with the right attitudes. In my posthumous interview with my dad, I wanted to find out a little bit more about what he was doing and how the experiences he faced while he was growing up were influencing who he was and what in his past decided that trajectory. I was interested as well in his personal faith and what role that played in his career. I was interested in what he had to share in terms of career advice for younger consultants, for someone who's in the consultancy space for over 60 years. I also tried to highlight leadership or experiences or achievements that he had had over 60 years, as well as, of course, share some anecdotes that I found out or that stood out in terms of either people sharing them or that he used to share with us as children. I was also interested in his thoughts about family and friendship. And then, as well as, of course, how he spent his latter years. For a final section, I was interested in exploring more content. So, for example, as someone who uses LinkedIn, I will always try to feature pieces that are relevant or that I think my readers will appreciate. I'm doing the same for social media or tools like X, as well as realizing that as I attend events, there are people who will not be able to attend these events for one reason or the other, and are therefore dealing with this FOMO, fear of missing out. So to help them with that, I created a section where I'll be covering as many events as possible, sharing insights in terms of what was discussed, as well as what my readers can learn if they're about to host events of their own. So if you read this piece, you'll find out about the Sling Money event and the strategy that I believe they used to get a larger audience. I will also share some pieces from Tech Safari, the conversations they had and the strategies they used. And then finally, Africa Business Heroes, the strategies they used, as well as how you can get involved with them. This is an ongoing competition. There are a few more days in which you can subscribe and you can be part of the latest cohort. I think we have about 10 days to go. You also have our usual micro poem, as well as the Hope First Bakery celebration, or at least update for the last month in terms of what we've been working on and what kind of growth we've been able to experience thanks to your support and encouragement. So that's basically the month of May. I've tried to give you more of the content that's not advertising related, because I gave you some of that content in April already, so that's already fresh in your minds if you listen to the previous episode. So once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. I'm your host, Nicholas Kianda, for Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Intersection Magazine Podcast.